On Peyton, your guy, Broncos are rolling. 5 wins in their last 6 games. But the wins have come against some inferior competition, including the lowly Raiders, the pathetic Saints, and the just abysmal Panthers. This weekend, they'll head to Baltimore.
Toughie.
Peyton spoke to the task ahead of the team.
This will be our toughest challenge to date by far, and this is a real good football team. So, getting back to last week, we're not going to be able to afford a few of those errors against a good team like this.
Yeah, I think Denver's got the much better defense, Baltimore the much better offense, 2 excellent coaches. I do not like big numbers. I've stayed away from them forever. This is the rare game which I like the big favorite, especially because Baltimore, coming off a loss, they're humiliated by it. I mean, nobody's more driven in this league than like Mahomes and Lamar Jackson. He gets so mad. I think they'll come in. They'll be totally focused. And I think what their weakness is, what Baltimore's weakness is, the back end, Denver's not built to beat you there.
Yeah.
You're not facing a team like Philadelphia, where Philadelphia against Baltimore, I mean, if A.J. Brown had 3 over-the-top touchdowns in Devontae Smith, Philadelphia is actually built to beat Baltimore. If they ever matched up, that's a scary one. Denver's not.
Yeah. If Bo Nix is throwing the ball 35 times.
He's not a big downfield deep ball thrower. He's a mover. He's 16 yards and in, but Denver's not built to beat Baltimore's weakness, so I don't like this spot. And I also think Baltimore is one of the best home teams in the league. Now, they're lucky it's an early game.
Those night games.
In Baltimore, forget it.
I think you got to go the over here. Ravens could easily score 40 points in this.
Yeah.
I know the Broncos defense is great, but again, look at the quarterbacks they face, Colin. It's like Gardner Minshew, Bryce Young last week. Like, come on. There's a big step up in class for the Broncos, and I'm with you on the Ravens.
Okay. All right. So we got the opinions locked and loaded of J-Mac and Colin Cowherd that the Ravens could hang 40 on the Denver Broncos, that their defense is not that good. It's only because they faced bad teams, bad quarterbacks, and it's seemingly that just the way how the Broncos are as a team cannot match up with the Baltimore Ravens. Now I'm curious, Denver Broncos fans, how do you feel about that? Like that's my first direct question before I share any opinion. I am genuinely curious what you make of that take. Do you think it's fair? Hey, we're a new team. We're like a young, newer team. The rookie quarterback, we're just getting things going. The Ravens are a little bit too far ahead of us. We're just not there just yet. Or are you serious? They're sleeping on us. Like, no way, let's go. Because I'm curious, because 2 things can be true at the same time. Multiple things can be true. Maybe not even just 2, quite frankly. But the Broncos could be underrated. And just because they're beating bad teams doesn't mean that they're not good. Or it could be, hey, you know what? They're a decent team. They're not great. And so they have been able to take advantage of bad teams. And so when they play good teams, it won't be as easy. And they might not be able to look as good. But also the Ravens, on the other hand, we see them lose to the Raiders. We see them lose to the Browns. And the Ravens can be a great team, but also potentially an inconsistent team, or a team with potential flaws that really harm them. So this is such a great matchup. And usually when you see a game like this, right, Ravens are -9. Right, like that's essentially a prediction of a blowout at this point, right? At home, like that's really what J-Mac and Colin Cowherd are saying for the most part, right? Is like the Ravens are going to be able to hang like 40 on this team, and that's a lot of points. I mean, we're acting like that's a super easy thing to do. Now, if Bo Nix is turning the ball over and he's got 2 interceptions and a fumble, then yeah, 40's quite possible, maybe even, dare I say, easy. But if the offense is taking care of the ball and they're not turning the ball over and milking the clock. They're actually having sustained drives, putting up points, whatever it may be. Well, then maybe not so much. So I'm really curious to see how this game's going to unfold. I really, really am, because we're going to learn a few things right now, right? Like, just to look at it through the Broncos lens, we're going to see, hey, you know what? The Browns found a way and the Raiders found a way to beat the Ravens. Why can't we find a way? The Ravens aren't this juggernaut team. And you know what? We're significantly better than people think we are. Okay, so fine. We beat some bad teams. That doesn't mean that we're bad. It doesn't mean that we can only beat bad teams. When the Buccaneers were full strength, when they weren't dealing with any of their offensive injuries or anything like that, the Broncos won that game pretty handedly, right? So let's not be so quick just to act like we've only beaten these awful trash teams. Not to mention the way we beat those teams, we looked really good doing it. Not comparable. We looked better than other teams beating those teams, right? And again, you have to work with what we work with in terms of what we're trying to kind of, figure out and analyze here. So that's why this game, and as Sean Payton put it, right, our toughest challenge to date by far, that's why this is such a great barometer game, because if the Broncos just hang with the Ravens, they don't even have to beat the Ravens, but if they just look like they belong, that you actually are watching this game and you go, oh, wow, the Broncos can win this game, or wow, the Broncos are winning this game, right? Like, even if they end up losing or whatever, it's still going to tell us a tremendous amount. If the Broncos hang with the Ravens, right, who's to say that the Broncos can't then go out and go beat the Chiefs? Who's to say that they can't go out and compete then, for a legitimate playoff spot? Not only a playoff spot, but actually win a playoff game. So to me, we're going to really fight, because at this point now, this team is again, obviously rookie quarterback, you're going to continue to develop, but at this point, this is who this team is right now, and Bo Nix has been getting better and better and better and better. But like we saw with Caleb Williams, he was getting better and better and better, and a lot of people saw that his last game against Commanders as a step back. I don't 100% see that, because there were some negatives for him, but there was also some positives. So I don't see it as he went forward and then back. So even if Bo Nix didn't play, I don't see it as if he plays bad, I don't see it as a regression necessarily. But this will be a big moment for him, right? They're at this point now where it's okay, let's see this right now. Are the Broncos and Bo Nix only looking good because they're playing bad teams, and this defense as well? Yes or no? Let's find out. But it's also not fair, because this is one of the best offenses as well, with Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry, right, Flowers, and they're adding another piece as well. So it's not necessarily fair to gauge your defense off of a Lamar Jackson, because it's also a ridiculously unique and specific offense with a very unique and specific quarterback. So that's why I'm looking at this for more than anything from an offensive perspective, because Lamar Jackson, the Ravens, can make even great defenses look awful at times, right? That's just the nature of Lamar Jackson. So I wouldn't even be oh, that's proof that the Denver Broncos don't have a good defense. But that's why I'm looking at this more from an offensive standpoint for the Denver Broncos, because this is where you have Sean Payton, right? This is why he gets paid the big bucks. But it gets balanced out with a rookie quarterback in Bo Nix. But this is hardly this unstoppable defense. And we saw even what Jaden Daniels was able to do, another rookie quarterback, of course, with the Washington Commanders now against the Ravens. And Jaden Daniels looked comfortable the entire game. He was never uncomfortable. He was very composed. He played really well. Not one of his best games, but certainly not one of his worst games. And they were in that game. It was just their defense really couldn't make Lamar Jackson uncomfortable, or Derrick Henry for that matter. And also, if memory serves me correctly, the Washington Commanders had no run game. And so I think both their backs, or one of their backs, was injured. So it really kind of put them on their back foot a little bit, and a tough spot to be in. So that's why it's going to be so fascinating to see. You have a long-time coach in Sean Payton, and now Bo Nix going into this defense that's, again, not anything that should be too threatening. So I'm so curious to see how the Broncos can attack this game from an offensive standpoint. And if that offense can be done in a way that could limit what the Ravens can do offensively, right? Because like I said, if the Broncos are going 3 and out a bunch of times and they're just giving the ball right back to the Ravens, that's when it can maybe be too stressful for this defense. So I'm curious, or if this defense is legit and they make Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens uncomfortable and they're forcing some turnovers, and now you're getting Bo Nix and the Denver Broncos short fields. It's like, okay, well then that's interesting now, right? So there's a lot of interesting variables here that I'm not going to be so quick just to be like, oh yeah, Bo Nix, Denver Broncos facing bad teams, now they're facing a good team, forget about it. Like, I'm not going to go that far. I wouldn't be shocked no matter what kind of happens, quite frankly. I really wouldn't. If the Broncos get smoked, I would be like, yeah, you know what? The Ravens are a really good team, a little inconsistent, but they're obviously a top team. And if the Broncos hold their own, I'll be like, yeah, man, Sean Payton's got this team humming along. This defense is legit. And Bo Nix is coming along. It's not just because he's playing bad teams, right? Like, the only thing that would shock me is if the Broncos roll the Ravens, right? If they win 28-10 or something, then I would be like, what is going on? Like, the only way I could see that happening is if Lamar Jackson has an absolute disastrous of a game. Like, it's just one of those games where it's like nothing goes right. Or if Bo Nix really proves that he has arrived and he is like, stop talking about Jaden Daniels, stop talking about Caleb Williams. The name is Bo Nix. Let's go, right? Like, but that's just too hard. You know, I just don't think that it's not that I don't think Bo Nix is capable of doing it, but I just don't know if he has enough pieces around him to be able to just be unleashed. But listen, man, who knows, honestly. I think Bo Nix has, consistently gotten better and better and better. And I've said this, I've talked about this at length. It's beyond just him playing bad teams. You can see the growth, you can see the decision making, you can see the throws, you can see the mobility, you can see him getting more comfortable with Sean Payton and Sean Payton getting more comfortable with him, which again, that transcends playing bad defenses. It just does. So what Bo Nix has been doing these last few weeks or so, I think, has been very, very, very impressive. And so, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens now when he faces a team where it's like, okay, you got to be on your A game. You, like Sean Payton said, things got to be refined. The margin of error is smaller. Do the Denver Broncos thrive in that situation, or do they break a little bit? I'm not really going to have any strong predictions, honestly. I kind of just want to sit back and watch this game and see it unfold. And, again, even if the Broncos get beat pretty good or Bo Nix doesn't look great, it's like, again, rookie year, what to expect. So if anything, I'm really only looking more for positive surprises than negative surprises, if that makes sense. So this should either way be a good game, because at the minimum, I think this is going to be a great learning experience for this team, for the Denver Broncos, with a lot of young pieces that need to know what it's like to step up in a game like this against a team that is going to be mad, against a quarterback like Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens as a whole, Derrick Henry, right? There's just a lot to go on as I lose my video. I apologize. But those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about Sean Payton, Bo Nix, Denver Broncos facing the Baltimore Ravens? Do you think the defense will be able to hold their own? Do you think Bo Nix and Sean Payton will be able to hold their own offensively? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment, so whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions, let's get in some fights, but ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and I'd absolutely love to see part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to, something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're well on our way to doing it. And please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much, and see you next time.